Don't use this version of the G major chord, especially when you're starting out. In fact, particularly when you're starting out. Now, if I could go back in time and start learning guitar all over again, I would learn this one. Let me explain. Now, one of the most difficult things for beginners to do is to go from one chord to another, to change from G to C, for example. This is often called chord transitioning or chord switching. So listen, when you practice your guitar, and if you practice regularly, you're obviously going to get better and better. And that's when you develop muscle memory. And muscle memory is something that you need and will help you make chord transitions a lot smoother. And when that happens, it won't matter which fingering of the chord you need, or you use, I should say. Now, in day 4 of this challenge, I showed you how to play G major, and I showed you 3 versions of the chord. But the version I preferred was the first one. The version I prefer, I should say, is the first version using the 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings. If I play the G major and the C major using the version I think you should start with, right? Now obviously, because I've been playing a long time and the muscle memory is definitely there, it's pretty easy for me. I actually started with, this was the very first version of the G major chord, and then I moved on to this one. It's like I progressed from that there to this from a book called Guitar by Dan Morgan. Solid book, but it had songs like Frankie and Johnny and Jimmy Crack Corn, which I had no idea how they went, so I don't know if I ever played them right. Didn't have YouTube back in 1986. And but then I got another book called Rhythm Guitar by Harvey Vinson. Now that's a book I recommend. And it told me to play G, not like this, but like this. And then when I went from this G to this C, I thought, oh my God, this is so much easier. And I couldn't figure out for a while, and then one day it hit me. It's something to do with the fingers, right? I noticed that when I went from this nice new version of G to C, not a lot was happening. And what I mean by that, not a lot of movement was going on in this part here. Whereas if I compare this G and then this C, you can see that everything is changing. Right, like that. But when I use this version, there's not much happening. And this was the thing, this was the key to help me make smoother chord changes. So this is why I recommend using this version, starting with this version. I mean, it's not just good for the G to C, there are other chord changes that are much easier if you use this version of G, and we'll talk about those in other lessons in this A Chord a Day challenge. So I'd say start with this version, but don't forget about other versions. I think it's a good idea with all the kind of basic chords. It's a good idea to learn different fingerings, different alternatives of the fingerings if there are them. So why don't you check out the other videos in this guitar challenge, this A Chord a Day guitar challenge, and also let me know down in the comments how you're getting on, how are your fingers feeling. Thanks so much for joining me today. Happy strumming. It's a great chord.